Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, April 17th, 2023. Bitcoin just dropped below 30,000. Is it bulls or is it bears? Here's 5 things you need to know about Bitcoin this coming week. That's today in Web3. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. It was amazing here in Cleveland, Ohio. Before we get started, please like, subscribe, share. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, click those 5 stars and leave us some good comments. Please share this with your friends and help people find this show. We want to grow something so everybody gets ready for the bull run. Oh, one more thing. We're going to launch an NFT with partnerships with Factory. It's going to offer you ways to come on the show, run advertisements on the show, as well as you get a one-of-one NFT with a good friend of mine, a one-of-one artist that you're able to trade on OpenSea. So look forward to that coming up in the next couple weeks. Now let's get into those 5 things you need to know about Bitcoin this week. So last week, Bitcoin hit over 31,000, but it's dropped. And so this is raising questions. Are we trending down or are we just consolidating? There's a lot of network fundamentals and a lot of macroeconomic fundamentals that make it look like we could be trending up again. But you never know. So I want to take a look at those right now. One fun fact I want you to know, 75% of all Bitcoin hodlers are now in profit. This should tell you a lot of things about the longs and the shorts, who's hodling, who's not. We'll go into that here pretty soon. But the first thing we want to talk about is retesting. Michel Van de Poppe, he tweeted, Bitcoin is getting towards the long areas, back towards a range low, which a sweep can be granted as an entry point towards $32,000. 28.6 could also be a long entry, but then I think we won't be starting to make new highs for now. Ret Capital tweeted this. This is exactly the Bitcoin retest I was talking about. Bitcoin is currently successful retesting the top of the bull flag price. Holding here would be a good contributing sign for continuation. Looking at his chart, you can see a couple things. One, Bitcoin was retesting the top quite a bit. It bounced off the top and now it has went lower than you saw it retesting in this chart. However, there is still a trend line. So even though it could be testing the bottom sometime soon, the trend is continuing that it looks as though we are going up. However, Dan Crypto Trades tweeted this. Bitcoin range traders are having a time of their lives while breakout traders are getting trapped on these range deviations and wicks, likely to keep ranging until one side gives up. And so what does this mean is if you're looking at this chart, people are trading within this range. And so these range traders are having a great time. They're buying around 29.9. They're selling at 30,200 or so, just making that little bit of spread. What this doesn't mean is the longs and the shorts are going to have a good time, because here's the thing is if you have a lot of people a lot of the volume is within that range and you're long in it looking for the new all-time highs, again, like he said, somebody's gonna have to give up. The second thing we have to look at this week is the earnings. Last week we saw a lot of macroeconomical data, and it was all pretty positive. The CPI and the PPI data came out, and inflation was a little bit lower than we expected. Now this week we have a lot of earnings from banks, Tesla, Netflix, and here's the schedule. Key events this week. Housing starts data on Tuesday, jobless claims data on Thursday. Now the jobless claims data is expected to rise, which actually sounds bad, but could be bullish. Basically, the reason for raising rates was to get these companies and people to stop spending. So if people are losing their jobs and jobless claims are going up, even how kind of evil that sounds, the less spending there's going to be. So therefore, it's possible inflation will continue to drop. Existing home sales data on Thursday, service and manufacturing PMI data on Friday, and a huge week of earnings, including Tesla, Netflix, and banks. And we're talking about the Bank of America, and we're talking about Goldman Sachs as well. Earnings season is officially here. And so we're going to see good earnings from Tesla? I think so. Netflix? Not too sure. Number 3, Bitcoin mining difficulty is going to hit an all-time high. And this is the first time that it's going to have its 5th increase since February of 2022. Now, is this pointing to a bullish Bitcoin? Not too sure. A lot of people have been looking at Bitcoin's hash rate as a measure of what Bitcoin is going to do in the future. However, it has been notoriously unpredictable. Also, we have a problem with how you measure Bitcoin hash rate, according to Jim Lop. Trying to measure Bitcoin network hash rate is like trying to measure wind velocity. Neither can be directly measured. Rather, they must be measured indirectly and estimated by working backwards. As a result, no one can precisely measure the total network hash rate. Number 4, who's hodling? Overall, more than 3/4 of the minted Bitcoin supply is now in profit, the most in a year. And it's a clear incentive for some people to take profits off the table. According to _@checkmatey, the Bitcoin market is currently experiencing a blue moon event, which only happens once per cycle. Usually, long-term holders are hodlers. Short-term holders are speculators. At the bottom of a bear, however, short-term hodlers represent the hardcore hodlers who stepped in front of the FTX sell-off. At the same time, capitulation was driven mostly by new and less experienced long-term hodlers who bought in the 2021-2022 cycle top. Now, a lot of people in the comments asked, what does that mean? It means that Bitcoin was going up 2021-2022. We remember we saw all-time highs of $69,000. And if you're buying all the way up to there, 50, 60 or so, and then Bitcoin started to go down in price, went from 69 to say 60, 50, 40. Some people wanted to say, I want to cut my losses, and then start tweeting, I lost all my money, Bitcoin's a scam. At the same time, the people who started buying on the 40s, 30s, and down, maybe they bought it at 15,800, they're buying and hodling. And even though we've doubled in price since the beginning of the year, they're saying that we still have higher highs to go. So those are the short-term hodlers that just bought at 15,800, and the long-term hodlers that might have bought about a year and a half, 2 years ago already, they sold on the way down because they thought the sky was falling. Checkmatey continued to say. Huge volumes of Bitcoin changed hands in the second half of 2022, and the cycle was reset in full. Now we're up 100% from the lows. Considering long-term hodler supply is still hovering around all-time highs and the short-term hodler supply is sideways, I have two takeaways. Number one, nobody except the hardcore hodlers remain. Nobody knows we're up 100% from lows. They will probably be back for real as we approach new to all-time highs, and this is a very good insight. Basically, if you're looking at $30,000 Bitcoin right now, nobody's looking at it going and saying, hey, I have $30,000 Bitcoin, we're up 100% in the year. Most people, well, within the year, most people are looking at that going like, oh, we have $30,000 Bitcoin, oh, it's too expensive, not knowing that we just made a gain because people aren't really looking at the historical history, the price history of Bitcoin. Number two, almost none of the folks who have been here for several months are spending right now. They appear to require and demand higher prices before they sell, which I certainly now do. And so whoever's hodling Bitcoin right now is waiting for those higher highs. We're talking about 40, 50, maybe new all-time high Bitcoins. Maybe even at that point, the hodling even becomes stronger, more diamond hands, and they're looking for that $100,000 Bitcoin. Basically, whoever's in the market right now has went through the bear cycle. They've seen the $15,000 Bitcoin lows. They know what it feels like to stomach it. I mean, especially if you've been here for a couple cycles, but the new hodlers know how to stomach the lows again. And so they don't mind if it goes down to 28, 25, even 20, but they're waiting for those new highs. And this brings us to number 5, greed index. This return to $30,000 Bitcoin saw a huge spike, a huge rise in greed. But there's a couple opinions about this. Let's take a look at Crypto Tony. Now, this isn't a metric I swear by, as it's lagging, but it gives a good indication of when to look to de-risk and be cautious. The last time we came up with 75 was back on November 7th of 2021, when Bitcoin was trading over $65,000. Food for thought. Now I want to push back on that a little bit, because when greed rises, sometimes the price does as well. So it's not foolproof, but let's take a look back when it was January of 2021. But let's take a look back at January of 2021 when greed was 50 out of 100. Price was about $40,000. In April of 2021, it then went up to around 75 when price was around 62. It dropped quite a bit, even though it was rising again a couple months later, up to around 95% when price was around $67,000. Basically, you're going to see ups and downs of the greed based off the price. Remember, in May of 2021, we saw around $60,000 Bitcoin. Price went down. People had fear that it was over, but price went back up around 6 months later. So, grain of salt with this, but people are being greedy. And I have proof of this. Good friend of mine just texted me the other day. Haven't heard from her in years. What was her first question? Hey, I know you're in Bitcoin. Do you think it's a good time to buy? That always says bull to me. Moving off of Bitcoin, here's a fun graphic I wanted to show you. This shows you the amount of energy that's used by different energy consumers, comparing it to Ethereum proof of stake. So the whole narrative is that Bitcoin and Ethereum and cryptocurrency uses so much electricity, it's ruining the environment. YouTube uses 244 terawatt hours of electricity, which it looks as though, after Ethereum shift to proof of stake, is 94,000 times more electricity, more energy consumed. Gold mining is anywhere from 130 to 240 terawatt hours. Global data centers is 200 terawatt hours a year. Bitcoin is anywhere from 100 to 130, so therefore we have a lot of things that are outpacing Bitcoin when it comes to energy consumption. Gaming in the United States is, and I have a problem with this one because I looked at this metric myself a couple weeks ago, and gaming seemed to be around 70 to 80 terawatt hours a year. They're saying it's 34. and Ethereum is at 0.0026 terawatt hours a year. So if you want to take Ethereum proof of stake and use it as a height comparison, if Ethereum was a half a penny high, YouTube would be as tall as the Burj Khalifa. That's how much more energy YouTube is using than Ethereum right now. I want to make a caveat to this. This study was done by ethereum.org. So I can't see they're totally off with their numbers, but you have to know the source. And really quick in some other news, after 3 months of chasing basketball star Shaquille O'Neal, lawyers on the class action lawsuit involving the FTX and influencers finally served him with the class action lawsuit notice outside of his home in Atlanta on Sunday. So they finally caught Shaq. Who knew the big man could run so damn fast? And a new filing from the United States Government Office of Ethics shows that former President Donald Trump made anywhere from $100,000 to $1 million from his new NFTs. I can promise you it's not just $100,000. It's probably more of the $1 million range. So not bad for launching probably one of the weirdest NFTs in history. Oh, by the way, something I think you should know. You can go to fec.org. And by going to fec.org, you can check on your elected officials. You can see where they got their money, if it's through their campaign or where they're still getting their money from. Basically, pick your state, pick the district you live in. If you're looking at your congressperson, your House of Representatives, click on your House district, and then find the candidate you want to audit. Click on their name, and then you can go through all of their reports. Now, if you want to see the senators, you can just go to the Senate page. It'll pick up all the people who ran for Senate, and you can click on them. For example, our current Senator, J.D. Vance. Where did he get his money? Where did he get his $15.99 million? Well, you can check that out. Now, let's get into those crypto prices.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
And the time is 9:34 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. Bitcoin is sitting at $29,403, down 2.8% in 24. Ethereum is at $2,066, down 1%. Tether's number 3. Binance is at $341, down 0.5%, and USDC is number 5. Rounding off the top 10, we have XRP, Cardano, Dogecoin, Matic, and Solana with a total market cap of $1.25 trillion, a BTC dominance of 45.5, and an ETH dominance of 19.7. And that was our show today. Look for another show coming out today. It's going to be about how to protect your identity with AI. Until tomorrow, happy HODLing, everyone. Hey everyone, the bull run is coming. It's coming quick. And you need to be up to date on everything that's happening in the Web3 space. So please follow us on Twitter and like, subscribe, share these videos so we can keep you up to date daily on Web3 news.